Right. When I was a kid, back in the 1970s, something people used to say was, well, if women ran the world, then there'd be no war. Well, let's see how that turned out. Now, we know already there are a number of women heads of state. Hasn't really made a big difference, although it's true that there's less war going on. But someone pointed out an interesting fact the other day. Did you know that the military-industrial complex in the United States is basically run by women? That's right. Look at this information, for example. The 4 largest defense contractors in the US all have women CEOs. That's Northrop Grumman's Kathy Warden. Then there's Lockheed Martin's Marilyn Hewson. Phoebe Novakovic, who runs General Dynamics. And then Boeing's defense unit is run by a woman called Leanne Carrott. Now, that's interesting because these companies are all run by people who are, fully qualified to run them. It's not like someone appointed women because they thought they'd be better at the job. These are literally the companies that manufacture the weapons of war, the megatons of armaments, the aeroplanes, the Tomahawk missiles, all the rest of it. And as it happens, the top positions in the Pentagon, which, remember, is where the US military installation is based, and that is overwhelmingly the largest procurer of these weapons of war, in addition, obviously, to international sales. But we have Ellen Ward, who's basically head of procurement for the US military, someone who runs the nuclear weapons installations, whose name is Lisa Gordon Haggerty. She's a woman too. And then right at the top of it all, we have the director of the CIA responsible for purchasing all of the really expensive stuff. Her name is Gina Haspel. So now what? It looks as though women are just as belligerent as everyone else.
Bingo.
So things are not going well in Venezuela right now for the bus driver of Caracas. That is the current president, Nicolas Maduro. He basically stole the election, locked up the opposition, has totally screwed that country. The economy is totally off the edge of a cliff, inflation through the roof. The oil industry, which was once the provider of all things good, is totally broken. So now we have a 35-year-old head of the National Assembly whose name is Juan Guaido, who has been basically declared head of state, and a whole lot of countries from the United States all the way through to Canada have, and France too, a moment ago, have started indicating that they recognize him only. Look, I'm not sure if Donald Trump could recognize Venezuela on a map, but now it seems all bets are off. What will happen next? There are mass demonstrations going on in the streets. By the time you watch this, it's possible that Maduro might be out. He will either have put down this revolution with the violence of the military establishment, which may still back him, or he could be on his private plane heading for a sympathetic nation, maybe on his way to Beijing, or on his way to, I don't know, Moscow, or he could be on his way to South Africa, because, our lot have also been quite keen on him over time. So for all we know, he could be in a safe house in, I don't know, Krugersdorp at this point, or Silver Lakes in Pretoria, or maybe a 3-bedroomed walk-up in Belleville. Yes, and speaking of power grabs, like the one in Venezuela, what about the power grabs that are going on over at Eskom? Look, I know you're bored already hearing about Eskom on the Blunders, but really, comrades, it is a very bad situation. The debts, they are rising to like 600 billion or something. The debts include like 17 billion rands worth of electricity not paid for by municipalities, half of which are coming from the Free State. What's wrong with those people? And the other half, another 17, is owed by the people of Soweto. Apparently only 15% of people in Soweto actually pay for electricity. The rest steal it from Eskom. The power stations, there's no chance they're going to work anytime soon. The commissions looking into what to do about Eskom are suggesting all kinds of unrealistic things like splitting it up or something. And it looks as though the taxpayer, you and me, are going to have to stand in and assume all of their obligations, if not those that are underwritten by the PIC, which is also underwritten by the taxpayer. It never ends. The only other power utility in Africa which comes close to Eskom in terms of the scale of its problems is the one in Liberia. I saw an article which said that 60% of the power that's generated in Liberia that is stolen, it gets stolen as a result of illegal connections.
Wow.
Now, as you know, South Africans like to compare themselves to Australia and Canada and New Zealand and countries that used to be in the Commonwealth back in the day. Well, my friends, we're now comparing ourselves to Liberia. Yeah, that story is, it's making me hot under the collar. It's summertime here in the southern hemisphere, and it is hot. It is hot, but it's not quite as hot as it is in Australia right now. Do you see the news headlines? 47 degrees centigrade in Adelaide this afternoon. Apparently the farmers there, the ones that grow corn, the fields, the corn, is literally popping like popcorn. That must be just heartbreaking for the farmers. I mean, imagine seeing your crop out there and it's literally going up in popcorn.